Hello and welcome to the Handicapable Black Woman Throne Room. My view of humanity is a whole new tea. Let's just say, on top of the dating nightmares, the river of racism, and the Reddit stories, which I am going to get back to, I have quite a few that I have at least screenshotted, read, and kind of looked over. But yeah, I will get to those when I get to them. And also more analysis on what makes a villain, and especially comparing and contrasting some shows that I think are just brilliant, or at least the character development, and some are based off real life people, because inventing Anna, the complexity of her and the other characters and them combined in a mixed conundrum. It's amazing seeing the good and bad in each of them and the imperfections, but then also having times when you like them or relate to them. Because I have almost nothing in common with Anna, but I understand her. And it's kind of odd and creepy in a way because I can't stand, oh my gosh, to me, she is an absolute awful, terrible person. But then, as a potential businesswoman, I understand her drive. I understand the sexism and the judgment, and even how men have told me if I want to get A, B, and C, or even a bank loan, or one told me I would have to sleep with him and stuff. So yeah, I when it comes to some of the scenarios and things she's went through, and then she did it the illegal way, but the way she hustled and talked to everybody and told people what they wanted to hear. Some days she would say she does not work and she was proud of it. Other days she would say that she works hard and she's proven to her parents, etc., etc. It's like, yeah, it's on Netflix. A bunch of you guys probably saw it during COVID. I've seen it so many times, but seeing the villain in so many different ways and having moments where you're just like, I can't stand her, but I know her. I get it. And having a little empathy while you can't stand her. But then other characters as well. Oh, especially that fake, no good, that so called friend who she was wearing. That one, yeah, the one scene where everything she had on, Anna bought her. Yeah, let's just say I don't have good things to say about that chick. Don't have. But then there were times where I'm just like, okay, I understand, but the way that she views employees and how she degraded them and put them down, and then comparing that to how society is, especially the 1% or the upper class, how a lot of them look down on, and some of them look down on the people that work for them and help them be rich, instead of being thankful and making sure that they can pay their bills, buy their food, and take care of themselves. Yeah, yeah, I'm just gonna leave that there. So I hope, if you wanna like, subscribe, follow, whatever, and also know I have the Patreon, and I already have so many screenshots, but and I have so many more. I have so many more. And I uploaded the one from the latest Dating Nightmare episode about that awful, terrible guy who is proud to be a fascist. And he even says that the reason he doesn't like the orange man in office is because he's not basically a big enough fascist. So, yeah, yeah, America. And some people wonder why we don't have a lot of international guests right now. Yeah, that, and if you don't understand, that means white privilege. That means white privilege if you don't get it yet. If you're still applauding the actions that our leader is doing right now, that, yeah, more than likely it's either your privilege or it's your, well, dislike or hate or judgment of people that are not like you, or that you don't understand, or that you've been brainwashed to hate for no justified reason whatsoever, or because of Fox News. In my opinion, of course. In my opinion. And now I want to start a deeper series, especially with Medical Nightmare. And I think I'm going to add Medical Nightmare with each heading. And I've already talked about some of the nightmare situations or doctors. And I'm going to tell the full story of some of them later. And also, I want to look up lawyers that I can do lives with and interview and talk to, because I want to know, can I sue? Because people keep telling me I can't, but then this episode is going to kind of show proof, and I'm going to do some mini story times to tell you examples of what I went through. Because over 30 years, I was undiagnosed. Over 30 years of doctors calling me a liar. And then next thing I know, that interfered with my relationship with my family, especially my mother. She died thinking that I'm just lazy and I'm making it up and I just want attention and stuff. It's like she died telling me that as long as I walk like this, no one's ever going to want me, love me, or marry me. It's like she died telling me that no one was ever going to hire me because of how I walk. But at the same time, I have to remember she got this information from the doctors. The doctors are the ones that kept telling her that I'm lying. I'm making it up. I just want attention. Just tell her to pick up her feet. One doctor said, since she's a Christian, to spank me until I pick up my feet. And that's when the whole spanking to force me, that's where that came from. The doctors, years of it. Years of it. So I think I have a right to sue. When people keep telling me I don't, but then I start looking up information, because again, some people may not understand how this interfered with, like I said, well, my relationship with my family slash mother, but also work wise, trying to go to job interviews and people asking me, or the HR or owners asking me illegal questions or comments, or telling me that they're not going to hire me because the parking lot's too far from the office and they know I wouldn't want to work. I wouldn't want to make the walk to work every day. And or if I walk like that all of the time, clients would just stare at me and they wouldn't want for me to take care of them because they're going to think something's wrong with me. And or you're too pretty to look like that. Why don't you go get fixed and come back? Because then it'll be a pleasure for you to work at our office. And don't forget some of the schools I applied for. Oh, we don't have our elevator doesn't work, or our classroom for this grade is only on the second floor, and we would have to take everything and put it on the first floor in order to be able to hire you. But then at the same time, they're telling me I'm the most qualified, and how impressed they were. Because even sometimes over the phone, they're telling me that they're ready to hire me until I walk in face to face. I worked at a university. They hired me after a virtual interview, but after the first day, the dean ignored me and treated me like garbage. The mentor he gave me ignored me, literally ignored me until the time of finals. And then all of a sudden, oh, now you know how to respond. Now you know how to respond to communications. Okay. Okay. When I give ideas, they just nod and shake their head. But then next thing I know, the dean comes around and asking me, why am I doing this or that? Or why am I showing parts of my novel when I said I asked permission and they said yes. And yeah, so then they try to get me in trouble on purpose. And then the dean goes around and mocks how I walk in front of other professors, to the point where other professors are coming up to me, warning me, telling me how disgraceful or disgraced they are of the dean, and they do not agree with his actions, and how much of a, basically one of them did call him a bigot. I high fived. I won't say gender wise, but I did give that person a high five because I kept hearing from other professors what the dean, how he was mocking me and saying awful things about me. But then at the same time, they were like, she knows how to teach, but we don't want her walking around like that. So yeah, and oh, in all of my paperwork, I have that I have, like the HR paperwork. I have a disability. During the interview, I said, it's like, do you have elevators, working elevators? Because if I teach on a class on the second or third story or whatever, then I wouldn't be. It's like I was like I would. Well, I told him I had a disability and that I would need an elevator and stuff. And I asked, how often does it need maintenance? Because at one of the other colleges I worked at and taught at, almost every other week their elevator needed work. And it was to the point where I had to ask them to have all of my classes on the first story because I have had nightmare situations where next thing I know, I can't go down and I have to wait, or I would have to wait for their emergency unit. Oh, and then some of their security or police or whatever, they would mock me or laugh, or they didn't know I was a professor. They thought I was a student. And so they would treat me any old way. And then they would ask for my student ID, and I would have to tell them I'm a professor. And then next thing I know, their attitude and body language changed. Yeah. But then after that, they didn't really want me teaching at that location anymore. Yeah, good times, good times. So, and so those are already a couple of examples because I know many people, they say people with disabilities or people on Medicaid or people who get services from the government, and those are mag tax dollars. They need to work. Some of us do try to work, but then when people keep mistreating us, being mean to us, judging us, it's like, and then we keep trying to find jobs where we are able to be independent and we don't have to ask for either services or anything like that. Again, I always try to ask and make sure that I can just stay on the first story because I have ran into situations where once I get on that elevator, I have to trust that they're not going to be having to fix it while I'm in need of it. And then I think, what about if there's a fire? What about if there's an emergency? I have to think about all of those things that the average able bodied person does not have to think about. And so, 30 years, over 30 years, people telling me the pain was in my head and there's nothing wrong with me, to get it, to just walk it off or go home and lose weight. When, well, okay, you know what? First, before I get into more examples, because trust me, I got more examples, but I've been doing some research and I typed in a question about if I can sue if I was misguided or undiagnosed or refused service. And with my search, I got this kind of short answer, and I know I need to write the lawyer and be specific, or call them, contact them to see if I am eligible. But with the law office of David A. Cates, I got I found this. If you need urgent medical attention and a doctor refuses to treat you, you can pursue a medical malpractice suit against the physician and or the establishment they work for. However, a private doctor is not subject to the provisions of EMTALA, which I will look up and do an episode on that specific thing, and can dismiss you as a patient at any time for just about any reason other than discrimination. without fear or liability. Once a doctor patient relationship has been established, a doctor is obligated to continue to provide care for a patient. And so I have so many questions with the different doctors because some doctors I may not be able to sue because with some of them were more in the same day appointments and or kind of emergency situations, like the Dr. George guy. It's like I was originally there for an ear infection, but then it's like I kept going to other doctors about the knee pain or my legs and the excruciating pain. And but then yeah, he was the doctor that told me go home and lose weight. He didn't even listen to me. He didn't even like he. I asked him, "Are you gonna write this in your paperwork? Are you gonna put this down in the log?" Oh, yeah, let's just say he is such an, in my opinion, in my opinion, he is such a no good scoundrel. He is an awful, terrible health quote unquote expert. Because I put quote unquote because I was in pain. And if you've been listening to the episodes, you already know the end result. I had to have major surgery. And my surgeon told me I'm in the top 10, top 5 or 10 of most complicated surgeries she has ever had to do. And how it took about 7 people to force my leg into a leg brace. And how her and other specialists or other people at the table were like, was she able to walk on this leg like this and for this long? And I still don't know how I was able to do it. But I know after Dr. George, that no good jerk, in my opinion, of course, I had no choice. And I was working 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs at the same time. So when people say get a job, yeah, I was trying to work. But then it's like sometimes when people try to judge me or tell me, oh, I know it doesn't hurt that bad. Oh, it's like some people say, I would never wish this pain on. No, I'm not one of them. Let's try a week or a month. For some of them, oh, a couple years. Because I have heard people try to judge me or tell me, well, you're so pretty. I know you're just making a big deal out of it. I know it doesn't hurt that bad. Or some of the Christian people, oh, well, you've been going to church for so long. I know God wouldn't put you through all this pain. Oh, you must not know how to pray. You need to learn how to pray better, hon. You need to start believing. Yeah, you don't believe. That's the problem. You need to do your work. You need to go into the Bible. Yeah, that is what I was told. And so, read this article. And like I said, I'm going to be going hardcore into so many things, but I'm going to do a whole episode on medical gaslighting. And I guess I'm so used to gaslighting that, like, I didn't know what it was, but then a lot of the doctors did the same things as my ex-boyfriends. So it just all seemed like life to me. It just seemed like normal conversations because all my life I was going through being gaslit. Men turning around blaming things on me that was actually their fault, or telling me that I was obligated to do things for them even though I wasn't. But then when if I needed something they refused, or they would tell me that I need to do A, B, and C, or I was obligated because of X, Y, Z, and all this, like But then with doctors, ooh, I am just now learning about medical gaslighting. And I have been medical gaslit so many times by so many doctors. And it's frustrating and heartbreaking because that messes with my mental health. it messed up my mental health. Because again, while growing up and walking different, at school I'm getting bullied, and it's like then going home telling my mom, and I'm telling her why I'm getting bullied, but instead of her taking me back to the doctor, she tells me, you know what the doctors told you, you need to pick up your feet. And sometimes I was at a point where I didn't want to tell her, because I knew if I told her and I admitted that I still wasn't picking up my feet, she would tell me to get the belt. See, and that's another reason I think I should be able to sue the doctors, because doctors would tell her to either punish me, or since my mom was a Christian and in the Bible it talks about spanking, spank me until I do it right. Yeah, good old memories, good old doctors, right? So when people tell me I should not be able to sue, okay, but I'm going to get into some more examples too, because even with promotional modeling, the pain was getting worse. And then sometimes I would have to work like about 2, 4, 6, 8 hours in the same day in heels. And if not even in heels, there are specific types of shoes that I need to wear so I am not in pain. And for some of the promotional modeling jobs, they would say that you have to wear another certain type of shoe, but those shoes would put me in absolute pain. And if you've been listening to the episodes, you already know I would end up working some of these jobs, and at the end of the day, I could not wait to get to my car and change my shoes, because my feet would be bleeding or bruised because of the pain, because the promotional job told me in order to wear the shoes that I was going to be more comfortable with, I would have to get a doctor's note. But then when I would go to the doctor, that no good, stupid, ignorant woman is like, yeah, I'm going to be showing her pictures. I'm going to do everything. Because this is the doctor who, like, I had since eighth grade until my early 20s. And this is the same doctor 18 to earlier, no, actually mid 20s. She all of a sudden got a letter saying she got let go, or she's fired, or she's no longer practicing. And this is the same doctor who, after appointments, she would call my mother and tell her everything about me. After I was 18 years old, I'm an adult, it's illegal, but she would call my mother and tell her everything. Everything. But I would have to go to her to try to get a doctor's note so that I could wear different shoes. And she would end up, basically, one time she laughed at me. She straight up laughed at me, and she was just like, well, if you're just going to stay this stubborn, if you never want to walk right, this will teach you to walk right. And then a few days later, I know she called my mom, because my mom called me into the room. She's yelling at me, telling me she's embarrassed because I was trying to get a doctor's note so that I could wear the shoes that I felt more comfortable in. And she told me that I had to learn how to walk right. But people keep telling me I can't sue. Yeah. I bruised up my feet so badly. My legs and feet, I was in so much pain. There were times, like, especially if I was working several promotions within 2 or 3 week period, it's like right when I would get home, I would go upstairs and like have the hottest bath I could take, just so I can have my legs soaking in hot water, and then put ice on my legs before I went to bed. That's how much pain I was in. But how many people cared? Not until I could no longer walk. For about 3 to 4 months, I could not walk. I had to have the surgery. I had to have the treatment. And so I am going to be going deeper into the medical nightmare. I am going to be showing and sharing the doctors that ended up being my worst nightmare, my villains. Because what makes a villain? Yeah, going to go through that so much. And some people who tell me they won't read my book because they will never connect with someone who has a disability, that shows me they need DEI more than ever. They need to read my novels and books more than ever, because I show the truth. I show the nightmare that some of us go through. And I said some of us because that's not all. It's not. It's like, for some reason, doctors refuse to treat me. They refuse to listen to me. They refuse to acknowledge that I am sharing something important that will interfere or help with my health, depending on if they listen to me. And they refused to listen to me. But yeah, and just imagine, I have so many more mini stories, and at the same time, I am going to tell each mini story throughout. But when I talk about the gaslighting, yeah. And after I tell some of those stories, I am going to try to make sure I order one of my favorite meals, because that is going to be some mental pain right there. Because the gaslight, like, the more I when I first searched it up and found it in the article, and then I started digging more and more memories started coming up, and the more frustration and pain, because yeah, these doctors gaslit me like nobody's business. But thank you so much for listening to the Handicapable Black Woman Throne Room. I am a woman, I am of color, and I am handicapable. But most importantly, I am human, and you're human too.